Eitan's busy.
I have to run to a meeting. I have a meeting at 2 o'clock.
Okay, well, I'll finish before 2, okay? There are...
The good thing is that it's right here on Soto and Olympic, so that's a good thing. The bad thing is it's 5 minutes to 2.
Sure.
Yeah, let's go.
Too busy doing production right now.
Can, busy.
They did a statistical analysis on various cities in Israel. Which city has unfortunately, which people have the most likelihood of getting Chas v'Shalom cancer? They found that the people who have the least chance, based on statistics, are people from Bnei Brak. Then second most is Beit Shemesh, and third is Yerushalayim. They also examined who the least chance. They also said that the people who smoke the least percentage are smokers, are again Yerushalayim and Bnei Brak. And they also, in the Iton Haaretz, did a analysis of which people in Israel, which city is the happiest city. And yes, believe it or not, the happiest city is Bnei Brak, which tells us a lot about being happy.
It's a very interesting story what you're saying.
Yeah.
I saw today in the paper there was a couple in the Chemish that they couldn't have kids for a long time. Finally, I don't know, they went to Rabbi Kanievsky, whatever the Rabbi Kanievsky, and they opened the Mirchatz, how do you call it? Brand new neighborhood. They had a baby. You should see the whole neighborhood, the whole city, half the city was there celebrating, waiting for the woman to come with the baby. The whole community, what do you have such a thing? What are you going to do with the ownership if you don't have to?
That is
never heard such a thing,
right.
Like an Indian tribe.
Like a Jewish, like Jews who connected to Hashem, which tells us about.
It was a combination of things. They got a blessing from the rabbi, and the baby came along, but
everything's part of the happiness. That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing.
The early days of kibbutzim,
Yeah. So the Torah does guide us to a path to being happier, more fortunate. And there's something from this week's Torah portion through 3 halachot, 3 laws, which is sort of like a tower. We'll be able to now analyze how these 3 halachot give us a different, new paradigm, new perspective on life that help us to have really a whole different way of living. The halachot, interestingly, are pretty obscure halachot. They're laws about the laws of impurity, laws of tumah. The halacha is that if you have a vessel, you have a cup, and it's touched by a reptile, halacha is that the vessel is now considered impure. It's tameh. But there's a condition. It depends. If the vessel is made out of metal, then it's able to become contaminated. However, if it's made from clay, if it's made from sand or whatever, it's made from clay, earthenware vessel, it cannot become contaminated unless it has a inside. Yeah. So that means if you it works both ways. It works both with being touched by the vessel. If you're touched by a metal vessel that's contaminated, you will become contaminated. If the reptile touches the vessel, it will contaminate it. But with earthenware, only if it goes inside does it absorb the impurity, and only something that goes inside it does it project this impurity. Why? So the Chidush Harim, he says like this, he says, with everything that's holy, all the creepy crawly things, the non-holy things, try to get nourishment from them. Tumah, in impurities, is something which tries to leech on to holiness. So where there is more holiness, where there's more meaning, that's where this thing gets attached to. So when you have a metal, gold, silver, that itself has value. Gold has value, even if it wouldn't be a golden table, a golden spoon, a golden plate, whatever it is, it's valuable because it's gold. But earthenware isn't valuable. Why is it valuable? It's only valuable because it has a function. You could put something inside, because it's something that has a inner core. In a similar way, the Torah tells us that a human being, like earthenware, comes from the earth. That's what the word Adam means. Adam, which means man, comes from Adamah, from the earth. So the Torah compares us to earthenware. We're like earthenware. How so? Think about it. A human being, once heard this interesting statistic. We put into our bodies a few kilograms, more than a few kilograms a week. So over a year, we consume about a ton of food. So in 20 years, you have about 20 tons. In a lifetime, 60 years, 80 years, you have absorbed, you have ingested 60 tons, 80 tons, depending on the lifespan. Now, after a person's lived for 80 years, and he's eaten 80 tons of food, how much does he weigh? He only weighs 70, 80, 90 pounds after putting into his body 80 tons of water and food. So it tells us that where's the investment? Where did it go? It tells us that what we're about is not necessarily the physical body that is just external. Rather, it's about what's inside us. Just like in the earthenware vessel, the main thing is what's inside. So too with our human being. God forbid someone lost a relative. You don't just think about their body and how they looked. What you remember from those people is who they were, their character, their persona, their kindness, their warmth, projected by the experiences you had. Fine, but you remember their inner strength, the inner person they are. So the first halakha tells us that what's important isn't necessarily just the stuff that we're doing. What's important is where it's going. Like one philosopher spoke about how people give away all of their money, all of their health to get money, and then later in life they give away all their money for their health.
Yeah.
So that's the first halakha, and tells us a lot about where we need to aim. But there's another halakha. Another halakha is fascinating. Another halakha is like this. Back to the earthenware vessel. The earthenware vessel only can absorb something impure, only can become contaminated if it has a kli kibul. If it's able to, like a cup, if it has something which can retain something, it can become impure. However, if it just has it has nothing to retain anything inside it, no empty space inside it, it's just something that's used for something, let's say a table or a chair, it can never become contaminated. It only can become contaminated if it has an empty thing inside it. This is the Rebbe said this is a lot of message for us for life. There are people, everyone, who feel when they're born, Hashem made us with something, with an empty, with an ability to receive things. We're able to get things in life. Some people live in order to get from life. Some people live in order to give to life. So, are you alive because of what you're about, your impact, what you're giving to the world? Or is your life about what you get? And an interesting thing is that people who focus on what they get in life, you would think they'd be a lot happier. People who think, I can receive, I have a place to receive, I want to get more, I want to get this, I want to get a car, I want to get a house, I want to get this, I want to get that. You think if you focus on your ego, you'd be happier. But what psychologists, not just Jewish psychologists and Jewish psychiatrists and Torah and rabbis, but this is something which is world recognized by everyone.
We're all Jewish.
Okay. We don't need an Andrew Stelz to this,
Don't
but
ask what your wife can do for you, ask what you can do for your wife.
okay.
That's the secret to success.
Fantastic.
That's good. I like it.
Fantastic. So
It's copyrighted, bro. Trademark.
But we're not just saying this for altruistic reasons. What you're saying is altruistic. What you're saying is idealistic. I'm talking about having a more happy, fortunate life.
Giving.
That you've discovered people who are interested in getting aren't happier, even though they're putting more stuff into themselves, but they're not happier.
No.
As Viktor Frankl, famous psychologist, philosopher, he said, the greatest need of a human being is meaning. It's the greatest need that we have. If a person's searching their whole life for wealth, they're searching their whole life to get stuff, they lose the wealth. You know why? Because the wealth isn't outside. The wealth is inside of you. So if you're looking your whole life to get the wealth, you're not going to get it, because the real wealth isn't outside of you. The real wealth is in you. So the kli kibul, what becomes contaminated? What kind of life is contaminated when your life is about what you get? But the vessels which have a function, which have a reason to be there, they're accomplishing something, those vessels don't become contaminated. There was this guy named Gordon Zacks. I think it was in the 1960s. He had this plan to help all the Jewish people with $100 million. Give me $100 million, and he'll solve everybody's problems. In the 60s, I guess that was possible. I don't know. Anyway, so he had a very fascinating audience with the Rebbe. Very interesting audience. The Rebbe told them to give him the $100 million. The Rebbe knows what to do with it. And it may sound funny, but it's not. They was very serious about it. And the conversation finished. Goren Zaks forgot about it. He came to the Rebbe 19 years later with his daughter. It was more than that. He was 25 years. I don't remember. At least 19. I don't remember. The Rebbe used to have private audiences, but as the crowds grew bigger, the private audiences, you were there, Isaac, right? You just passed by the Rebbe for a second. They'll give you $1, and the next person went by. A second. He goes by the Rebbe. It's not even a second. It's a half a second. The Rebbe gives you $1. He says bracha v'aslacha, and the next person comes. If you stand your ground, you can say another word. That's it. He comes by with his daughter. The Rebbe immediately continues the conversation that they've had, as if they started 19 years ago. So this guy you see it's a video. He says, "You're amazing." He didn't say his name. He didn't say just "You're amazing." That was 19 years ago. How did you do that? Now, let's say you tell someone you're amazing. Let's say, Eitan, getting back to your wife, and she tells you you're amazing, right? So okay, you're on tape. You're on tape, Eitan. Be careful. Good. So what's your reaction? What's your reaction when someone tells you you're amazing? What's your reaction? Some people, they blush. Some people... You for sure amazing.
He's trying to brother.
Some people, they blush. Some people say, "Stop it, you're not serious," And some people have a little more, self-confidence. They say, "Thank you very much," and they move on, right? The Rebbe, immediately, it's hard for us Neanderthals to comprehend what the Rebbe said, but the Rebbe said, "What will it accomplish that I'm amazing?" Is that what the Rebbe is saying? What will it accomplish that I'm amazing? Everything that Hashem gave us is for a purpose. It's a reason. It accomplishes something. Hashem how do we start off our day every day? What's the first thing we do? Moda'ani. Moda'ani is such a powerful tool in life, in knowing where you're going to be happy. Moda'ani starts off your day and identifies who you are. Eitan, you're 26, right? So 26 years ago, you were born on let's say December 5th and August 20 in December
1980 something.
Yeah. So the God's looking at his world, and God says, "Stop! The world cannot go on without Eitan. There's something only Eitan can do." That's what Moda'ani tells us. You may make lots of mistakes in your life. You may get dirty. You may get broken. But every day you wake up and you know, I'm here for a reason. I got something that only I can do in this world. And that's why Hashem brought me to the world. So the key to not becoming impure, to having a good life, is not to be about that empty thing inside of you and say, what could I put inside it? It's about thinking about what you're ambassador of Hashem and what you're here to give the world. There could be in a house, you could have 10 children, a husband and wife and grandparents, all living in the same house, living in completely different spaces. Everyone has a different perspective of what they're doing in that house. These grandparents tell their grandchildren about life in the old country, life in Europe. So thank you very much. The grandfather says, life in Europe, it was amazing. There was trees and nature. And his wife says, "What are you talking about? It was muddy, it was dirty, So the grandsons, "Are you sure you guys live in the same place?" And that's true. It's true. Everyone can live in the same house. I know in my house, all of us, we Baruch Hashem, we all live in the same house, my family, and everyone in my family is very different from each other. They all live in completely different places. So the second halacha is telling us, you know how to keep yourself sane, keep yourself grounded, keep yourself happy by thinking about what you're here to give the world. That's our second halacha. There's a third halacha. Third halacha is like this. Third halacha is, if you have a vessel that could receive, but could also give, it also does not become tamei. It also cannot become impure. Hashem wants us, on the one hand, to know that we're here with a gift from Hashem, moda'ani lefanecha, but don't focus on just the gift. Focus on what you can do with it. A pipe that receives, but also transfers. You over there by Birchas Abanim?
I was there every Kippur.
Which year?
Memches.
Wow, that's what I was talking about. Birchas Abanim Memches is what I was actually going to share with you. The Rebbe before Yom Kippur, everyone gives a blessing to their children. The Rebbe's children are his students in his yeshiva. So before Yom Kippur, that year he was there, Birchas Abanim, that was totally packed. In a way that you can't even describe how packed it is.
I went back to the room.
And what?
Yeah.
The Rebbe was speaking about this halacha, about the earthenware. It was crying. The Rebbe said earthenware, if it receives earthenware, kli cheres. The Rebbe said a Jew can never become tamei. A Jew can never become impure. Even though a Jew may have a part in him which is about receiving, but ultimately a Jew is like a pipe which both receives and gives. That means Hashem wants us on the one hand not to discount our virtues. Humility doesn't mean that you ignore your talents. Say, I don't have talents. I don't have gifts. That's not humility. That's just falsehood. Torah is true. Torah is real. Hashem wants you to recognize you have gifts. You have things to give the world. But at the same time, why do I have these gifts? What does Hashem want me to do with these gifts? I was given these gifts to accomplish something. In Israel, in Ranana, there's a Jew there whose name is Yehuda Weiss. He grew up in a town near Lodz called Kunin, and his parents sent him to Lodz to go to yeshiva, to go to Sachat Shaver Rav. And then it wasn't like you go to yeshiva. There's a dormitory, there's a kitchen. There he starved. He would stand outside the synagogue at night, hoping someone would throw him some bread. Where did he sleep? He slept on some boxes in a warehouse. Not like a warehouse like this. There's at least air conditioning. It was a warehouse, with rats. A crazy place. Anyways, so he, unfortunately, the Nazis came. He was taken to Dachau. He went to concentration camp. Unfortunately, he's alive, and gesund. He went from the left. Mengele sent him to the right. He survived, but he lost his film. You can't really retain anything when you go to Auschwitz. You lose everything, but he lost his film. One day, he's doing his job over there, and this train is passing by, and this train slows down, and this guy throws out from the train a little suitcase. And he went and he runs, he picks up the suitcase. What was inside the suitcase? The pair of film. Apparently this Jew knew he was going to be killed. He wanted at least someone else to wear that film. He got that film from there. He put that film in his bunker, and he put on film every day. One day, the Nazis come into the bunker, they see the film. Who does this film belong to? Belongs to me. Belongs to you. So they beat him up, and they decide, and it's a terrible crime. They announced that he's going to be hung in front of the whole camp. So all the Jews are gathered. They're looking at this guy going to be about to be hung. What the Nazi says to him before he's hung, we're a very aristocratical people. We're very honorable people. Do you have any last requests before we hang you? He says, yeah. Want to eat something? Want to drink something? What do you want? I want my film. I want to put on film. So give him the film. Puts on that film. And as customary, to many people the custom, after he puts on the film, the shalyad, the sharash, the head film, the hand film, then he puts on his finger. And the whole place, the whole ground over there is full of tears. And he says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. He says, we won them. He says, look at us, he says. We put on tefillin to the end of our lives. They can't stop us. And the Nazis are very he's encouraging them. It's an insult to them. So one German officer passes by over there at that moment. He says, hey, you're just going to let him die like that? Let's beat him up first. Don't just kill him like that. Beat him up. And they were so angry at him. Said, okay, good idea. Before he gets hanged, we're going to beat him up 100 with 100 blows. And if he survives 100 blows, then we'll send him alive to the gas chamber. So they beat him up. He faints. The same officer passes by, and he picks him up and he takes him back to his barracks. He survived and is alive. There is a lot of things that that we get involved in day-to-day life. But Hashem tells us, start off your day every day. Say, Mo Dani Lefanach. Who am I? What am I about? Sometimes you walk into a room and everyone's dancing. Nowadays it happens because people have headphones, right? But imagine you're deaf. You walk into a room, everyone's dancing. What are they dancing? Baal Shem Tov says, you see people dancing? You know what? It's because you can't hear the music. There's music going on. Hashem is telling us, think about why you're here and what your mission is until you get there, until you get to be at the Mashiach. L'chaim, l'chaim.
They asked the Rabbi Lau this year, they asked Rabbi Lau, how come God deserted us during the Holocaust, and people are so upset in Israel. Every year they talk about it. And he said something very interesting. He says, what the Germans wanted to do during the Holocaust is not just to eliminate us, they wanted to eliminate the Jews, the Jewish religion, the Jewish tradition, the Judaism altogether. He He said, if we did get upset and forget about religion, forget about Tefillot, forget about everything else, they won. Because my mother, she died the last day,
On the Liberation Day.
They killed her, just they happened, you know. But anyway, he says, my mother, now she has great grandchildren in Israel, Jewish kids. He's like 5th-generation rabbi or something. Like his son is rabbi. This is how we won. My mother won. We just gave it up because we're upset and we gave up our tradition, our religion. They won the war. This way we won.
Isaac,
We are keeping our tradition.
you started this year very good. You ended very good. Next week you're going to do the whole thing.
התחלת את השיר טוב וסיימת אותו טוב.
אתה צריך השבוע הבא גם להגיד את האמצע. בבקשה.